Emma never believed that places could watch you. To her, a house was just wood and nails. A forest was merely a collection of timber. But the first night she stood barefoot in the damp grass of her rented cottage in Northern California, staring at the colossal oak tree beyond the rusted fence, she felt it with absolute certainty. Watching, it wasn't the predatory gaze of a mountain lion, nor the curious eyes of a neighbor. It was something patient, something that had been waiting for a very long time. Emma had fled Chicago too, disappeared to outlive a broken engagement and the kind of quiet betrayal that hollowed a person out from the inside. The cottage was small, affordable, and forgettable, just like she wanted to be. That thing is older than the town, Mrs. Patterson, her neighbor, had warned earlier that day, her knuckles white as she gripped the picket fence. People say it remembers. Best not to stand near it after dark, dear. Emma had offered a polite, hollow smile. Now, under the cold light of a crescent moon, she felt foolish for ignoring the warning. The air around the tree didn't just feel cold, it felt aware. The next evening, curiosity or perhaps a subconscious need for connection led Emma back to the fence line with her camera. The moment her boots touched the perimeter of the tree's shadow, her phone vibrated violently in her pocket. The compass spun in frantic circles. The GPS map flickered, showing her location, jumping between the cottage and a point miles out at sea, then back again. When she tried to focus her lens on the tree, the screen filled with static, as if the oak itself rejected being captured in pixels. Then, a notification pierced the static. Unknown sender. The grief you carry smells like rain. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. Her fingers trembled as she typed back. Who is this? How are you on my private network? The reply came instantly, the letters appearing as if they were being carved into the screen. Kai, I am not on your network. I am in the roots. I am in the air you are currently breathing. For 3 days, the messages continued, fragments of a story that defied history. Through her phone and her dreams, Emma learned of Kai. He was a jinn, a creature of smokeless fire, bound to the ancient oak during the California gold rush of 1850. He had been imprisoned for the crime of loving a mortal woman named Catherine, a painter who had spent her final years sitting beneath these same branches, waiting for a door that would never open. Driven by a strange, magnetic pull, Emma began to dig at the base of the tree, beneath decades of fallen leaves and tightly wound roots. She found it, a smooth azure crystal. It pulsed with a rhythmic, internal light. The second she touched it, her phone shrieked. A call from Chicago. It was Riley. Thank God. Your GPS is glitching out of control, it says. You're standing in 2 different centuries at once. Get out of there. Emma looked at the glowing stone in her hand, then at the towering tree. I can't, Riley, she whispered. I think I'm finally exactly where I'm supposed to be. As the winter solstice approached, the veil between worlds grew thin. Kai's voice was no longer a text on a screen. It was a whisper in the wind. I can be freed, Emma, he confessed, his voice heavy with the weight of centuries. But the balance must be maintained. To break the binding of a jinn, a soul must take my place as the sentinel. You would lose your mortality. You would become a whisper in the mist, forgotten by the world of men. Emma spent the night looking at old photos, her graduation, her parents, the face of the man who had broken her heart. She realized she was mourning a life that already felt like a ghost story. I won't ask this of you, Kai's voice echoed in the room. Your life matters because it ends. Don't throw it away for a shadow. On the night of the solstice, barefoot and shivering, Emma pressed the azure crystal against the rough, ancient bark of the oak. I'm not throwing it away, she whispered into the darkness. I'm choosing something real. I'd rather be a legend with you than a ghost in Chicago. She took a small silver blade and pressed it to her palm. 3 drops of blood fell, dark and crimson, onto the exposed roots. The ground groaned. A blinding light, the color of a winter sky, erupted from the center of the tree. The wind roared, carrying the scent of cedar and ancient fire. The world shifted, tilting on its axis. When the light faded, the silence that followed was absolute. A man stood before the tree. He was tall, his skin the color of polished bronze, his eyes swirling with the remnants of a storm. Kaya, he was solid, breathing, and free. He reached out, his hand trembling as he touched Emma's cheek. His hand passed through her skin like it was touching a warm cloud. Emma looked down at her hands. They were translucent, glowing with a soft ethereal light. Her phone lay in the grass, its screen shattered and dark, a relic of a life she no longer owned. "You gave up the sun for me," Kai whispered. His eyes filled with a beautiful, tragic wonder. Emma smiled, and for the first time in years, the hollow ache in her chest was gone. "The sun always sets, Kai. We don't have to anymore." A year later, the cottage stood empty, but the garden was never overgrown. Travelers passing through the Northern California mists often reported strange things near the old oak tree. Electronic devices would fail. GPS maps would show beautiful, non-existent cities. And on the clearest nights, some claimed to see 2 figures, man of earth and a woman of light, dancing beneath the branches. They were the guardians, the lovers, proof that some stories don't end in the dirt, they grow into the stars.